Public meeting of October 15, 2018 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the Township Clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at Mayor and Council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. Everybody please stand for a salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes. Roll call.
Councilman Bruno, Councilman Casio.
Here.
Councilman Cumming.
Here.
Councilman Ullman.
Here.
Council President DeSena.
Here. Approval of minutes. None. This time, do I have a motion to open the meeting up to public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno, Councilman Casio.
Yes.
Councilman Cumming.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President DeSena.
Yes. Anybody would like to come up at this time?
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. I just have a couple questions. Our cell tower. When the town approved the cell tower, we were told that, the revenue for this town was going to be, unbelievable. And, there were two originally, it was Verizon and AT&T, or whoever's for AT&T. And it's going to be great. Have we ever had anybody else come to this town asking to put up on that tower?
I'm not understanding your question.
Well, there's only two. We were told that you'd at least have
There's
three.
multiple
No, there's more
There's
than-
multiple carriers
I think
on
there's
it.
3 or 4 carriers on
Are
it.
there three or four?
Yeah.
So they haven't had to put on? Then why is the revenue not as much? It doesn't seem like it went up a great deal of money. It was supposed to be for each level. There was so much a year. Mr. Pollard, maybe you can answer that. How many carriers are up on our cell tower?
How many are on our cell tower now?
Yeah.
There's 4, right? 3 or 4?
I remember there was 4 to begin with. I haven't kept track of the numbers.
What do you mean 4 to begin
Well, I
with?
thought there was.
There were
no,
two.
There was 2 originals.
Right.
AT&T and Verizon.
Right.
I thought 1 extra went on. I thought. I don't recall.
Okay.
And then you had Metro PCS was on there.
I thought an extra one went on, but.
Well, no,
And
because I think
Sprint.
they merged.
And Sprint. Sprint was the 3rd one.
Was there a third one?
There was
Because
a third one.
when you look at the revenue in the, our budget, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of revenue for having, I thought there was still only the 2. And that one year I looked at it, and it was an actually lower amount. Would the amount ever go down, Mr. Pollard?
Yeah. Shouldn't have gone down.
Okay, it looked like we have less money in the revenue portion for the cell tower.
Maybe we lost the carrier though, because as between the 2 main ones, nothing should have gone down.
Well, yes, there was only, so that's what I'm saying, it hasn't seemed to have gone up.
As they merge, Mrs. Osmond, I think the ability to increase that revenue is going to get harder and harder.
Okay, so we
Metro
were
PCS
given a
and-
bill of goods. I'm not complaining here about the council. All I'm saying, there
That
was
was
a...
done, previous administration.
No,
not
I
this
know when it
all
was
done.
done. I know when it was done. But what I'm saying is the fact that we were told a lot of different things from these carriers and such, and
But the fact
obviously...
is that we now have cell reception at Washington.
Not
So-
necessarily, no. I talked to somebody who was right down here in Hudson, and she constantly can't get through. I talked to somebody who was up in Van Emberg. They constantly can't get through.
I
So-
have Verizon and I have no,
Oh, I have AT&T, and I've never had a problem. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, so-
But it's these people who have Verizon for some reason that seem to have problems near us. Okay, that's just... also, was the police, the emergency services ever put on there? Does anybody know?
My badge.
Our tower from here, was the antennas put over there?
I think they merged down there.
I'm not involved necessarily with that, because that's an
I
academy.
think they were.
Then why didn't the tower come down? It was supposed to come down. That was one of the good things about it going over here. The tower was supposed, and I know you didn't do anything with that, Mr. DeSena, but you
I will
take on
look
the
in,
burden.
I will look into it and get back to you, Mrs. Osmond.
Will you?
I promise I will get you an answer.
Okay.
I usually do, right? For the most part. So you want to know why the police tower is not down?
Yeah, and were they transferred over? Because,
I will find out and get you an answer.
Can
Now,
you let the
also-
council know too?
What's that?
Can you let the council know?
I will let everybody know.
Maybe he can't talk.
Yes,
Not
I don't
only
think the
Mrs.
council
Osmond.
knows a lot about, never mind.
I will find
YouTube,
out if the police was transferred or if they're, why wasn't it transferred, if I can get an answer from somebody.
okay, well, I hope you as council president can get an answer.
It's not always-
YouTube, there's no 10/1/18 meeting on there. Is there a reason for that? It's not on there, Sue.
On where?
On the YouTube, you know, the 10/1 meeting?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to find out. I didn't know it was missing.
Yeah,
I'll look into it.
Okay. I just thought first, and it didn't seem to be, I was at that meeting, but I left and I was so disgusted that I didn't listen to the other part of it, and I wanted to go back and it's not there. And I went at, 10 o'clock, 7 o'clock tonight. Okay, I have a question in reference to Washington Avenue from Van Amberg to the Hohokus line. When it snows, it's closed. We have our barriers there, and years. I don't even know when it started. Now, that's a county road, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Who makes the determination to close that portion of a county road when it snows because of the hill, I guess the quality of the hill, the grade of the hill? I've wondered
I
about
would
this for a
think that
long
it's
time.
I'm taking a wild guess here, Mrs. Osmond. I believe it'd be the police department.
Well, okay, but this is a county road.
It doesn't matter. It's still a safety protocol, probably.
Okay. So just as an outside the box, Washington Avenue going the opposite way, when it's bad weather and such, and when it gets a lot of backed up of traffic, there could be ways of closing that too, if it's a county road, if you're allowed to close, if a municipality is allowed to do something with a county road. And for safety purposes, you have to understand something. If you ever come off the parkway and see the cars just roll through the stop sign, it's not good. And they roll through that stop sign all the time. And we cannot have our police officers there constantly. That's not fair to them either. But it's just
I
something
will
that
speak to the
happens.
chief tomorrow and find out how we close the road and
Okay.
get back to you also.
All right, because I've just wondered about that for a long time. Now I have one other thing. On our town website, because I was on the website looking for the YouTube and such, our administrator is gone?
Yes,
Okay. Do we have a new administrator?
we will.
Okay, so that's why the agenda is not a big agenda. Okay. I mean, you'll be discussing, I'm sure, in closed session, an administrator, or even have one come in. Okay, so I just really wanted to know those things.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come up?
Beatrice Napier, 324 Hudson Avenue, Township of Washington. At the last meeting, you talked about moving the road department to another area.
Yes.
Why? Why?
What's that?
Why are they talking about moving it to another area? It's here, we pay whatever we pay. And for the money that it's cost to move it to this new spot, we could fix the one over here, make it look very, very nice.
The one that's here needs to be demolished under either scenario, so we need to build a new building under both scenarios.
But why not build it here?
Because there's always a lack of parking here, there's a environmental cleanup that has to occur here, there's a multitude of things that have to occur here. We did a cursory review, the council has not made a decision on whether we are moving it or not at this time.
But they're talking about moving just, maybe there's the trucks up here.
No, that's, we have a new plan that would show everything being moved.
Okay, but that'll be discussed, and no decisions made on it.
No decision has been made.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close to the public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under presentations, none tonight. Ordinances, adoption on second reading, ordinance number 18-14, an ordinance establishing late fees for sanitation licensing registration. Resolution number 18-314, authorized second reading and opening for public hearing for ordinance 18-14. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Anybody like to discuss resolution number 18-314? Seeing nobody, motion to close public hearing for ordinance 18-14.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 18-14 at second reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Ordinance number 18-15, an ordinance amending the fee schedule for Recreation Department activities related to the Teen Center membership. Resolution number 18-315, authorizing second reading and opening of public hearing for ordinance 18-15. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Anybody like to discuss ordinance number 18-15 at this time?
I'd like to say it's a great ordinance.
I was just about, you took the words out of my mouth.
It's the
Councilman
best, it's one of the
Casio.
best things we've ever done since I've been on the dais.
Thank you. You will now be able to take your children to Westwood Recreation for teen night free of charge, as long as you register according to the Westwood Community Pass. Correct, Mr. Mayor?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for doing this. And thank you, council.
Yeah.
Motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 18-15.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 18-15 at second reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Introduction, first reading, none tonight. On consent agenda, we have the following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution 18-316, shared services for snow plowing with the County of Bergen. Resolution 18-317, award of contract to Allegiant Wireless LLC for radio communication consulting services. Resolution 18-318, refund quarter 4 homestead benefit in Sarah, block 3407, lot 14, 94 Sussex Road. Resolution 18-319, resolution quarter 4 homestead benefit, Colbert, block 4415, lot 33, 320 Hickory Street. Resolution 18-320, refund of quarter 4 homestead benefit, Carbone, block 431301, lot 18, 516 Calvin Street. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Can we talk about 316 and pull 317?
Sure, Mr. Ullman. Is it okay if we proceed with 318, 19, and 20?
Yes.
Can we take a roll call on 318, 19, and 20 at this time? Ms. Wachowski?
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Omen?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Mr. Ullman, on 316, what are your,
I just had a question. What is the current rate that we receive, and how do we calculate the time spent on county roads?
we have the current sheet?
This is a 2-year contract.
Yeah, I don't know the current rate either. I didn't see this till it was in the packet, but I did ask Bill even last year when this came up. They keep track as to how much time they do spend on the county roads, each driver or whoever's assigned to the area, and that's how they report it to the county.
And it was my understanding, and perhaps it's a misunderstanding, but in addition to the time that we spend, are we reimbursed for the salt, or do we have the ability to take the salt replenishment from the county? Is there a component of salt aside from this 110?
Yes, what you said second is the county kind of lets us use salt if, you know, if we say we needed, I don't know, 3 tons to do the county roads approximately, they allow us to have that. Right now, we are storing our salt there, so they just adjust for it that way.
And that wouldn't be part of this agreement, or is that sort of or should it be?
I can't imagine that they have this agreement just for Washington Township, so I'm going to say it's probably their boilerplate agreement. I can certainly ask them the question, though.
Oh, actually, point 5 speaks to it. So, all right, I'm good.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, Article 5 talks about the salt being replenished by the county. Are you okay with 316 at this time, Mr. Ullman?
Yes.
Anybody else on 316? Can I have a roll call for 316?
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Just one note on that with the tracking of the time for where the trucks are at any given time. They do have that GPS tracking, which is always a big vendor down at the state conference. And a lot of towns use it to keep track of where their trucks are, and they can coordinate where they are during snow plowing. And we could definitely use that to our advantage to track where the trucks are and the numbers of hours that they use on county roads. I don't know if there's an appetite for it on the council or the DMF.
I'd like
The
to
mayor would be-
get all the roads plowed correctly first, and we'll worry
Yeah,
about tracking.
that's true, but that would also aid in tracking where they are
Yes.
and where they've been, you know, just to make it more efficient, so.
I'll certainly talk to the DPW about it.
Okay.
DMF, sorry.
Sure, no
Yep.
problem, thank you.
There are also tools that'll optimize the routes. I mean,
Yeah, that's what it
understanding
does.
that our
It not only tracks
personnel,
them,
our personnel know our streets, but there are tools that optimize routes for plowing as well.
yep.
Absolutely. Mr. Ullman, on Resolution 18-317, the award of contract to Allegiant Wireless, what are your...
No concerns, I just wanted it voted on separately.
Oh, okay. We have roll call for 18-317.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
No.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under individual resolutions, none tonight. Motion to adjourn to conference. What's that?
Excuse me. Mike, can I just make that
Oh,
quick announcement
sure,
before we go?
Mr. Mayor would like to make a quick announcement.
Thank you. I'm happy to report that the town's been waiting a long time for something, and it came to pass at 6:30 this morning. Our emergency dispatch desk is now staffed by civilians 24/7, 365. If you see a police officer on the desk, it's because of something extraordinary, but we have enough people now to staff it fully, so hopefully that will help control costs and put more of our police on the road. I want to thank the council for agreeing to the concept and funding it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Let me just add to that. I used it this morning at 6:45.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Might have been the first call, then.
Might have been the first call, and the police responded very, very quickly, so it's working.
Good.
I don't want to use it,
Yes.
but it was necessary.
May I ask, are they, what schedule are they working?
They're working 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. to
They're on the
6:30
pit- they're on
a.m.
the Pittman.
It is a Pittman.
Yes, correct.
Close.
Motion to go into conference agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Gentlemen, under conference agenda tonight, we have ordinances and legislations. We have has anybody had a chance to look at the draft of the abandoned properties ordinance that Mr. Poller has put together?
Yeah, I looked at it. It seems pretty stringent, and I assume everything's enforceable as far as we know.
Yes.
And it's a hybrid from a couple different towns, I assume,
And the statute.
and the statute that we have.
The property statute.
Okay. So
I'd like to put it on the next meeting if it's okay with everybody. Mr. Ullman, Mr.
As it exists?
Do you want
We can
changes?
tweak it. This is your area, Art, so if you see something that needs tweaking.
Thank you, Mr. Casio. I circled some things. I haven't had a chance to go over the whole thing entirely, all the way. And perhaps some things would best be phrased as questions of necessity, certainly not criticisms to anyone who wrote it. But I'd like till the next meeting to do a complete review and perhaps work with Mr. Poller if he has time.
Yes, that's a good idea.
I think it's...
Can we try to have those comments I'd like to adopt this as soon as,
If you want to adopt it to get started and then
Yes.
amend it.
can we adopt it?
No,
Mr.?
don't do that.
No, then you got some more work.
No, you don't want to do that?
But the
No?
other reason, that, by time if the changes are substantial, you have to republish,
Okay,
so.
that's fine.
So I'd rather talk with you, Art. Maybe what I can do is after we talk, I can create a red line to show what changes
And
he
then maybe we
wanted.
can have it ready
And then
for the
maybe
next-
get it to you before the meeting.
Yes.
And then, work on getting
Whatever the
something.
most expeditious thing
Yeah, we could
is,
do that.
certainly.
I don't think we have anything pressing that this has to go
Well,
right
it's,
away.
our property maintenance officer would like to have this for his teeth.
Yeah,
Well, let me say this, let me say this.
It would help him.
He can
Yeah,
function with what
he does have
has.
property maintenance provisions
Yeah.
if there's a situation for him to address right away, but I mean, the sooner the better.
I could do this week, and my concern is that it's very, very comprehensive, it's very well written, I understand what I'm reading, but it appears that it requires the property maintenance officer to go to some lengths to make certain notifications and certain procedures. And I wonder if all of these procedures are going to embroil the town in a lot of extra work.
Okay, well, the only problem is that it's based on the state statute, and there are requirements for the state statute. For example, putting it on the list of abandoned properties, the right to get it off, the procedures, the timing, the notice, a lot of that stuff is statutory. But you and I can work on it during the week, and we can talk about it.
Okay.
It's fine.
If I may, please.
Absolutely, Mr.
Yeah.
Conley. If you could reach out to Mr. Poller and get that squared away.
Thank you, I will.
Just,
Thank you.
I just have one question, actually. On page 2, item 2, where they talk about construction, and it being initiated and discontinued, is construction defined or is work defined? Is painting or, installing a toilet considered construction, and does that restart the 6 months? Because there are, I think, one or two instances in town where properties have been under construction for an extended period of time.
Yeah, this is really going to the idea of leaving the building unsuitable for occupancy. That's what this statute is based on, is really nuisance and occupancy situations. So I would say it's not covered if somebody just took out a permit for a toilet.
No, I'm
Yeah,
saying if they've started construction and for any number of reasons they've stopped construction, the house is essentially a shell. They don't do any work for 6
Okay.
months.
Well, okay, then if it's not fit for occupancy, yes. Or if it would come under that also if the property becomes a nuisance, because there's nuisance criteria also. So there's a whole thing there.
That's probably your best single clause,
Right.
if it's broad.
Yes, it's broad.
Well, I think this case, you look at Hickory Street, the dead-end cul-de-sac on Hickory Street, is a house that was under construction for 6 years that the neighbors had to tolerate with.
Oh, yeah,
And
well,
because we didn't
that would-
have...
that would fall-
that's-
that would fall- yeah, that would fall- that would
and
fall within this,
The neighbors
yeah.
had to deal with that house for 6 years, and luckily our new property maintenance officer was able to get the gentleman to finally get the outside to look like it's inhabitable. He's still working on the inside, but the outside now has siding on it. It's got a driveway that's paved, sidewalks, walkways, grass. So those poor people looked at a boarded up house for 6 years.
This probably would have been helpful.
This would have covered it, yeah.
This probably would have been helpful for that one on Wayne Place, too.
On Wayne Place also, yeah.
There are some of the ins and outs of these things that I think would better be discussed perhaps in closed session, rather than advising how to leave a house vacant.
Yeah, no, I think the idea is you should give me a call and we should just go over these.
And the
changes.
construction issue, we used to say that if you drove a nail, now this is just building permits, if you drove a nail every few months, that would be sufficient to satisfy a permit being open. However, that doesn't serve the purpose we want to serve.
This ordinance serves the purpose against what
This
you're saying,
does, this
Mr. Cohen,
does.
because the driving of a nail every 6 months doesn't make the building finished on the outside where it's not a detriment to property values.
Exactly, thank you.
Like the one at the end of Hickory was, where, the people are suffering trying to sell their house because they have a house that's, boarded up for
And it
6
reduces
years.
property values, as in Mr. Pollard's
Yeah, like Wayne Place and all
resolution.
that, yeah.
So we need to protect the populace from any decrease in property values, obviously. Now, I'm all for it, all for it. It's
Anything else,
just-
Mr. Allman?
No. Oh, wait.
Talk to you later about the construction.
Sue, you
If I
had an amended of Chapter 120 of open burning, Sue?
Yeah, there was some questions that have come up recently regarding fire pits. And speaking to the health officer and speaking to Mr. Pollard, this chapter 120 addresses it, but it's not what goes on nowadays with fire pits. Meaning, you have your little pits that you can move around, put your wood in, and chimeneas and things like that. So, Mr. Pollard, I don't know if you have any comments you'd like to add, or if everybody would like to just review it.
Well,
how you want to handle that.
Well, yeah, let me go a little further. I did speak with the representative from Northwest Health, we talked about it. So the way our ordinance is written, and it's probably everybody's ordinance in, every other town as well, it prohibits the burning of plant life. Trees, plant life, stuff like that. So you do have situations, and that's what the ordinance says. So there are, people do put in wood, and wood is plant life, and right. And so technically speaking, it's supposed to be covered by the ordinance and would be prohibited. Yet there's a lot of call for people having these things, these open pits, the chimeneas, whatever they are, those things, and they want to burn wood. And so any of that activity would fall in violation of the ordinance. In addition, and I'm sure that there hasn't been a problem, or I guess there's not a lot of problems where people are using it, but apparently this one situation came up where the one person who had this chimney was burning a lot of wood constantly, and obviously smoke is going over into a neighbor's property. So you get into a situation where the neighbor is saying that should be prohibited under the ordinance. And so we're kind of in that area of an ordinance that's, by its words, prohibiting a conduct which is allowed to continue. Now, I kind of asked the health officer, well, is there an answer? And she really didn't have. There is no answer because it's like a policy decision. But you may want to take a look at the wording of that ordinance. You may want to, retool it, somehow. I'm not sure how, but if you wanted to retool it, you would, it would be something to focus on. But that it's arising because there was at least one complaint, Sue, right? Yeah, about it.
So what is charcoal considered? I mean, it's charcoal.
That's not plant. I don't think that's plant life.
Well, it's burnt wood.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a expert, but you're right. I mean, there's and also, let's face it. I mean, I know a lot of people who have
Fire pits and chimeneas. Yeah.
Chimeneas, and they put in very fine wood that's aged and all that kind of stuff.
And what about a barbecue? Is that
Again,
covered?
I don't know whether briquettes constitute,
Well, if it's wood in,
okay?
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You know, if we're
No,
talking
what I'm-
about burning.
Yeah.
So I guess my question in looking at this, does our current code speak to barbecues?
I don't think it talks about barbecues, does it?
No, it just talks about open burning on
Right.
page 4 of 8, Mike.
Right.
Open burning, 120-5, open burning.
I mean,
So I mean, our ordinance as it sits today
Well-
prohibits the use of chimeneas and fire pits.
Right.
That's
That's the
basically-
issue.
That's the issue.
That's the issue.
And I think the type of material thrown in, it would be important. As
Well, it's
in,
prohibited, as of right now, it's a prohibited use.
as in trash and
Well, trash-
painted lumber,
No, trash and that kind of stuff is definitely prohibited. We're not even talking about that. We're talking
treated
about-
or painted lumber
Yeah.
is a big no-no.
so what, since the health officer is the enforcing official, what is their position?
They don't have any position.
So if they get called, what are they going to do?
I don't know in terms of what they're going to do. I don't think they issued a violation on this particular instance, right, Sue?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
They went out and they spoke and.
I think they just try to go over, talk to the people, and try to give a cooperation, if not overdoing it. For example, the officer said to me, usually you'll get somebody doing it like on a weekend, once in a while, but apparently this particular situation was like almost every day or quite extensive, much more. So the neighbor is getting a lot of smoke in their space. Definitely a balancing of quality of life issues, I suppose. You don't have to decide tonight, but I think it needs a little thought if you want to take a look at that.
Can you research if any other town has done anything with chimeneas?
I can do that.
With your
Yeah.
It also
attorney
says,
colleagues and see if anybody else has tried to address it? Because,
Go to
everybody has a
12010.
chimney and a fire pit in their
I
backyard.
did check a couple. They have our ordinance. They
They have our
their
ordinance, yeah, that's, most towns I've seen have this
Exactly.
ordinance.
Right.
Check market light.
Council President, it says that the director may appoint or designate other employees or officers of the township.
Just
So
do what,
our
sir?
code enforcement official could also enforce
here's the
this.
thing.
We don't need to rely only on the health person.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, my concern is not
Especially in the summer, everyone's out around.
only who's enforcing it, but what are they enforcing?
Well, I mean, according to this, open burning is prohibited, so I don't know what the ticket would be for it or what the violation would be for it, right, Mr. Pollard? But it's,
Prohibited.
what's that?
I mean, the activity is
It's
prohibited.
prohibited, yeah.
Or 120-4 is very simple, straightforward, and it speaks to the problem. Prohibition of air pollution. That's it. Bang. You can't burn stuff every day in Bergen County. We're not
Yeah, but if you-
Vermont.
If you have a chimney.
God bless
If you
him.
have a fireplace and you have a chimney, you're effectively doing the same thing, except it's the venue. I mean,
Inside or outside?
so I understand what you're saying, that we want to control air pollution, but if you really think about what we're talking about here, assuming that the individual who had the complaint raised against him was burning some type of seasoned firewood and not yard waste and scrap, people burn it in their house every day. So,
Yeah, it's 120-5C is the real issue. That's the issue.
okay. Well, I would propose that we somehow find a way to permit the use of a fire pit or a chimenea, since in my simple mind, we allow it in an enclosed space through someone burning firewood in their fireplace. So it's the venue, and that would be my suggestion.
I'm going to just throw something out. I think maybe the way to do it is identify the permitted types of things you can burn in the chimney. In other words,
Why don't we look at
Yeah.
other towns?
And
get back to us and
All
see
right,
what
okay.
they've done, because I think it's a very broad topic.
Yep.
And what Mr. Ullman is saying, if you have an interior fireplace, yeah, you can burn all the wood you want. You can burn 365 days of the year. I agree with
Right,
you, Mr. Ullman.
right,
So
right.
let's look at what other,
Okay.
right? So we'll have Mr. Pollard report back to us if he can figure out what other towns have done with the chimney of fire pit issue.
It's not so much the burning, it's the safety factor. I think most of this was put in originally for safety, because back in the day in Washington Township, you know, Ken, they used to burn the leaves on the street.
Oh, yes, the leaves,
Okay?
yeah.
Well, like it was going out of style. And I think that's really why they probably put this ordinance in originally. And then with the pollution and other things. But like to Mike's point, you know, if I have a chimney and I have sticks laying around on my property, I'm not gonna go out and buy sticks from Lowe's to burn, to be quite honest with you. That's crazy. Get rid of what I have. So it's a touchy issue. You know, a lot of towns have gone through this, especially resort towns. Now along the Jersey Shore, I was telling Ken, Warnacket Light had a similar issue in the past, and I forgot how they resolved it, but I think what they did is they allowed them. But I'll have Ken research that. So again, it's a tough issue. It's a tough issue.
Okay. Moving on, use of township facilities, ordinance 15-15. Mr. Cumming, you had asked this to be put on the agenda for the designation of the different groups and being charged to use the township center. I personally have a vested interest in this ordinance, being the vice president of Washington Township Baseball and Softball, so I think I need to recuse myself from this, Mr. Pollard, if I'm not mistaken.
I mean, is that it's one of the facilities that we're talking
Yes.
about? Okay, yes.
Can I leave the dais and go down and speak as a citizen?
No. Now, what are you? You're right. What position do you hold?
I'm a vice president and treasurer of Washington Township Baseball and Softball, so. We are a class 2B as per Mrs. Sopkowitz's designation that Mr. Calamari as council president signed off on.
Thanks for reminding me of that.
Mr. Cumming, you wanted to discuss this also? I will keep quiet because I don't want to.
No, please. This would allow some of the truly charitable and trying to do good things groups, such as Girl Scouts and so on, to use some of the facilities without charge. And that was the main thrust of the renovation of this ordinance, which is an adequate ordinance. If we could revise it to allow these organizations, and my paper's in back of me in my bag, to use the facilities without charge. That's our goal. That's what we're talking about. Does anyone have a problem with that kind of a thing?
Well, what this ordinance originally was modeled after was the use of the fields at Westwood Regional High School. They had the different categories of who gets to use the fields in what order and per price. And I think that's the origination of this. And, you know, I think our citizens do pay a nice price tag every 3 months, and to charge, I know, and to charge them to use the facilities that they're already paying for their volunteer organizations, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever it might be. I think it's a little onerous on the town. So I tend to agree with you. But then again,
It's like the teen center.
it's like the same thing like the teen center scenario. So I think we could probably refine this in a way where we have a true charitable organization that we can donate this time and space to. We just have to come up with a formula what classification that would be. So again, I hate double taxing a citizen to use the facility, but I think we just have to kind of tweak it a little bit. And I think when we originally did it, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Mayor, we just wanted to get something on the books because we had nothing at the time.
Correct.
Zero.
Correct.
So we kind of followed Westwood High School's lead in doing it. But I think it's time to probably tweak it and make it a little bit more effective and relevant to the township at this point.
Thank you. I didn't know the history
That's basically
of how
the
it came
history of
about. But that's our goal, is to benefit the charitable young people's organizations.
Well, how about you and I
such
work on
things.
it over the phone, and maybe
That-
we'll come up with some type of list, if that's right with
That
the
would
other
be grand.
council person.
Thank
That'd be great, Mr. Casco. Thank you for dealing with that.
Yeah, and,
Thank you, Mr. Cumming.
I have a quick list also, because people have come to me even during this year. So it was, all kinds of scouting, VFW post, Women's Club, and Friends of the Library have all inquired this year to date so far about, using our space for their meetings. So
If you and Mr. Cumming could take the lead on that, I appreciate it.
I mean, the township
Yes,
has
sir.
so few places where you can act that's large enough where you can meet as a group,
Right.
even commercially, so to speak. You can only fit so many people in David's Bagels, and it's usually occupied early. It closes up by 4. So we got to come up with avenues where these organizations can meet and do their
thrive.
function, yeah.
Thank you.
I think we have our ideas here.
So who's the arbiter of charitable organization and community good type of thing?
What do you mean by that?
Well, we have, we've talked about the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. We've talked about potentially church groups. So there is a norm within the town, and I guess my question is, what if someone from outside of that norm, but falls within those categories, wants to use it? So
I
we
think it
can,
has to be for the children of Washington Township.
well, I think that's,
Mr. Cumming, would you agree with that?
I think that's the
It's
whole
not for
idea.
outside, it's
Yeah.
not for children outside of Washington Township to come and use our facilities.
No, I
For
think-
free, it's for, if the organization benefits the youth of the township, then they should be a group that would be, not paying to use the facilities. If it benefits children outside the boundaries of Washington Township, then they should pay, or if they're a for-profit and they benefit the use of Washington Township children, then they should pay. But if they're a not-for-profit, and they benefit the children of Washington Township, that would be my guideline as the arbiter, right? I don't know if you agree with that or disagree with that, Mr. Allman, but that would be it. I mean, if it's a for-profit organization that's here to make money, then they should pay. If it's a not-for-profit, 501(c)(3) or whatever you may call it, or they just collect fees just to keep themselves going, then that's a different story. But if it's an organization that, is a for-profit entity, then they shouldn't be exempt.
Are we limited to children only?
But children and adults.
Well,
are
adults,
still-
yeah, well,
Because then you got
seniors-
yes,
the seniors and all, I
because,
take that back. It should be
it
children
should
and
be
seniors,
well,
and adults.
Well, I think you talk about nonprofit.
Yeah.
Nonprofit, it's a IRS designation,
Right.
and that would be something that I would have as a criteria,
Mm-hmm.
personally, whether it's youth, teen, elderly,
Adult, yeah,
I don't care, it doesn't
absolutely,
matter to me, but a nonprofit would be big on my list.
We have a short list here. The Cub and Boy Scouts, Boy and Girl, and VFW,
Absolutely.
Women's Club, and Friends of the Library. Just to name a few.
Yeah, and I think
Would be qualified, yes?
The intent was to add them to Class 2A users. And Class 2A's definition is uses and organizations indirectly related to the township, including the Golden Seniors Club of the Township of Washington. So I think they were just looking to get added into as a Class 2A
Instead
category.
Instead of an outdoor, outside category.
Right.
Well, why don't you guys, you and
Yeah,
Art, you
Yes,
guys could work on something and bring it back
We'll
to
work
us.
on it.
We'll-
Okay.
we'll look
I
at it.
think if we just refine or amend 2A, we'll be in good
All right,
shape
we'll
with
look
this.
at it and see what you guys come up with and bring it back, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
would you eliminate Class 4?
Should eliminate class 4.
Why would you eliminate it?
Because a lot of those, from what I just heard, sound like they are going to be part of Class 2 now.
Well, you still got church groups
Well,
and
that talks
political
about,
organizations.
that talks about outside township organizations.
Class 4?
Yeah,
No, it doesn't.
I'm sorry, that's class 5. I'm looking at the wrong class, Michael, I'm sorry.
other government.
It's the 1
agencies.
and the V, not just the V.
Thank you.
All right.
Is that before the V or?
That's 6.
Thanks. Just checking my heritage there. Got it.
Okay. Well, we'll wait and see.
Okay.
Are we thinking about changing the fees at this point?
Possibly.
I think that's part of the, that would probably be part of the package.
I think that is.
Yeah.
I'd like to share with you fairly, Dr. Cassio, the draft scratch I have,
Okay.
which is literally a draft scratch.
Work in progress.
Oh, yes. But it has some good ideas that may help guide us. And we should have it together pretty quickly.
Thank you. Under financials, gentlemen, Sue emailed the 2 files out, the schedule of bond anticipation note reduction in 2019 bond, which is an 8.5 by 14 sheet, and I also updated the 10-year strategic capital plan, as we discussed at our meeting last time, at our special Saturday meeting. So the big question on the note reduction in the 2019 bond is, if everybody's okay, I'd like to have Ashley take a look at this to see if we should use the surplus, the 2019 surplus, so we go out with less bond anticipation note reduction into the final bond. So she could take a look at it and see what that would do.
Mine has got several color highlights on it. Can you interpret the
I believe that
special
just,
meanings?
just happened to print that way, so they're all the same color.
It's very nice and quite effective. I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
didn't know what it
I
meant.
thought that, I didn't know what that means.
It had no meaning whatsoever. Sue printed it out in color, thank
It
you.
was very effective, though. Yeah.
So I guess on the reduction of the bands, if we go, we're looking at just under $6 million total for the bands, with the reduction of the pay down in 2018, which will put us at 5,994 in 2019. So if we use $2.5 million, it'll give us a $3.5 million bond in 2019. So I guess we'll have to have Ashley look at that and see what the numbers look like, if everybody's okay with going out with 6 million or going out with 3.5.
Well, I think we would have to understand what the surplus level would be. I mean, I don't think we ever reached a consensus, and there doesn't seem to be any true guidance on what an appropriate surplus level should be. So, was it 2.4 that we would use?
It's 2.5 on the
2.5?
2.492, Mike. to be
I
fair.
think it's, I think the question is that overly aggressive, and does it leave us with no flexibility on the, in the surplus? The other question I had is, if any of those are funded but unused, should we write those down first before we start paying them off?
Well, they are being written down by the surplus. That's the intent.
No, but so.
So I took
because-
the oldest one like we had talked about, and we would pay those directly out of surplus, so ultimately writing them down in 2019.
But if I'm not mistaken, we have drawn monies against some of these ordinances, and some of that money has not been used. So should we pay down the unused portion? And
I'd have to ask Ashley that question. From what I received to prepare this, those bond anticipation notes, they're the bands that we have on the sheet have been spent. I don't know where the rest of the money is. I understand what you're saying. If it's been bought and not used 100%, you're saying use that, but
Yeah.
that's what technically has become surplus at this point. So it's 6 1/2 dozen, like, if
No, I
we,
don't believe that's surplus.
it's gotten moved from wherever it was into the surplus. It's not sitting in these accounts any longer, it's sitting in surplus.
I don't believe that to be correct.
Where do you think those are sitting, Mike? Mr. Holman?
I would say that it is sitting in a bank account, but the monies have been drawn, they haven't been spent. So the ordinance reflects that we had an ordinance for $100, we issued bans for $100. We only spent $50 because the project wasn't seen to completion, was underestimated.
Right.
That extra $50 is not, I don't believe, part of surplus. That extra $50 is part of capital. That was the whole discussion, or that was a discussion that we had when we were reviewing this, is what monies have been bonded but not spent, and what should we do with that? Because we've been using it we've been looking for unexpended ordinances to meet current expenses, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Mr. Calamari?
I must say I'm a little lost on,
So we have bonds, we have bonded ordinances where we have not spent all of the money. So there's excess funds.
On this sheet?
Yes,
That's
on
what we're
that
referring to, right.
There's excess, there's unspent monies.
Right.
And I believe it was a strategy of the administration of Mary Ann and of Matt to use those monies most effectively. For instance, when someone needed radios, we went to unexpended ordinances, and we tapped into those funds.
Correct.
So that is what I'm saying, is that we should be looking, so that 2.4 or 2.5 may actually be less, or if we wanted to use 2.5, we may actually have to, we may actually wind up with less bonds to permanently fund.
Yes.
I think this is the start, Mike.
Okay.
I agree, you know, we'll have to ask Ashley if there is money bonded but not spent and where the money is. But I think we need to start this because March is right around the corner and we're gonna have to go out for a huge bond in 2019. And if we don't start this and get them to start reviewing it, so if I get the council's blessing to have Ashley look at this, I don't wanna proceed without everybody's blessing. And I'll have her look at this with the way I have it prepared, Mike. But like you said, these surplus used may be less because maybe we'll have to use a unencumbered and a surplus used column, which would then equal about $2.5 million hopefully. And this way we can get rid of more bans if that ends up being correct. If we find small pockets of money in each one of these ban ordinances,
Okay?
right? Is that correct, what I just said? Would that meet your expectation if we got her to do that?
Yes, I mean, I think the end state, aside from the analysis of the bans, is the tying it into the surplus, because electing to use $2.5 million of surplus to pay down short-term debt, we just want to make sure that where that leaves our surplus position.
We have left about $3 million in there, so.
Okay.
The other thing that we talked about is no one knows what the proper number is to have in reserve.
Correct.
Some say you need 900,000, other ones say you need 1.5 to 2 million. So that number is very nebulous at best. It's got to be a number that
Whether the
as a
number is
council-
nebulous or not, we still owe $6 million.
Yes, we
in
do.
bans.
And
That's
that's not-
ridiculous at this point, that we need to put a dent in, because
we need at
Yes.
least one winning lottery ticket out of the 6 of us.
I'm not paying it with my lottery.
Come on, a couple dollars here?
No.
For $1?
The second sheet is the strategic capital plan for 2018 to 2028. So what I did here is I created a couple new line items, starting in 2019, starting the new equipment escrow. I apologize, I put it on the fire department, but it's just a general new equipment escrow for all, township vehicles, mostly the fire trucks because they're the biggest expense. So we'd start putting in $50,000 starting in 19 a year for new purchase down payments or whatever it may be. I put the firehouse at 2020, the $5 million expense. I left the truck and the engine there because we do have to order it early, so we may end up having to do that at the end of 19 in order to have it for early 21, but we'll have to get more information from them on that. I put the $2 million for the DMF in 2020 also because we have the 2021 deadline for the remediation, so we need to get that going also. I kept the radio system there. I just inserted a line placeholder for the bands of 6.1 million. I didn't adjust that based on what we do with surplus. I just wanted to put a placeholder on the strategic plan. And I did 75,000 in improvements to Memorial Field next year, 125 the following year, and 500,000 the following year for new lighting as we may see fit. And then I kept the signage as it was originally, with adding $10,000 a year until hopefully we get all the signs up that we need and we can stop that and move that to somewhere else. So if everybody could review that, take a look at it, see what else we want to add, what we want to change for the next meeting, so we can keep the strategic plan momentum going.
Would it be worthwhile to ask the DMF and the police, who are the two largest users of capital, if they foresee anything? We have the firehouse, the fire trucks, the DMF, are they anticipating the need to replace any of their equipment aside from what's on that schedule?
Well, everything else is new already, Mike, right? It's been replaced in the last 2 years, all the dump trucks and everything, the garbage truck.
And what's their life? I mean, if it's a 10-year...
To answer your question, Mike, I have meetings scheduled with both departments next week to start the budget process, and I told them be ready with capital requests also.
And I appreciate that. I think that, getting, aside from the tactical and the current, the strategic view, if they could have a view,
3 to 5 years.
Well, 10 years, we
minimum.
want to get this updated, so we want to think a little bit, for the strategic plan.
I believe that we need a new mowing machine.
Okay.
So, not a huge expenditure, but
Still 50 grand.
that's exactly, thank you.
Also, I think, did everyone get a copy of the next step on the fire and ambulance
Yes.
building? I didn't put it on this meeting because it needs time to be absorbed, but I'd like to put it on next meeting.
Yes, it was going to
Be
go,
ready to keep
it's on
that
the
along.
agenda, yes, on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else, gentlemen? Yes, the next thing I have on the miscellaneous is, there's two ordinances in your packet, gentlemen. One is a double-sided Village of Ridgewood ordinance number 3673 for the prohibition of, it's a very detailed prohibition for Ridgewood. It's an ordinance to amend smoking to create a new article for tobacco shops, cannabis shops, and electronic vapor substance inhalation shops. That's the very cumbersome Ridgewood one. And then we also have for our review the one that Westwood just passed regarding the prohibited uses and adding cannabis sales both medically and recreationally in the township limits. So if we can have a look, I've discussed this with Mr. Calamari in the police department. He has a copy of this. The health office, Angela Musella has a copy of it. She's reviewing it also. for comments. She is the health officer in Westwood also, so she's probably already seen this, the Westwood one at least. But Mr. Poller, if you could take a look at, I know the Westwood one is a page and a half.
Well, it's not even a page and a half, it's 2 lines.
It's 2 lines where
Ridgewood-
Ridgewood's got a
Yeah.
very detailed,
Right.
but I don't know how,
Have the Ridgewood thing.
you know, which one you think is to our benefit, so if you could review both,
Yes.
and maybe we could get a draft going.
Well, I think we have a discussion.
Yeah, discussion and a draft going soon. So that's there.
Where do we, I'm sorry, I don't see anything, the Ridgewood thing.
It's further down in the pack.
It's all the way at the back of the packet.
Really?
Yes, it's in there.
If you don't have a copy, I could give you mine, I'll get another one.
I'm sorry, I didn't find it at all.
And how does this, so
Yeah?
we recently, as a council, voted on zoning and the sale. How does this complement it, or how does this support it?
Okay, I mean, I didn't know these were going to be in here, but that ordinance that we had done was limited to the commercial district, but it was not town-wide, if you remember, so that was really specific to that, as I recall.
Yes.
Yeah, and these are,
Townwide prohibition.
I mean, Westwood just says, nothing, nowhere, anywhere, done. That's Westwood. Ridgewood, I didn't have a chance to look at.
So
Ridgewood
thought our-
basically is crazy everywhere.
Okay, yeah.
I thought our approach was that it was not we were going to limit the sale in the commercial district because that's where it could occur, and that if it occurred, if someone wanted to do it outside the commercial district, they had to come before the zoning board.
If they were to establish a business for it, they would have to go to the zoning board because the sale of that would be not a permitted use in a residential zone. So they would have to go for a variance. I mean, that was the thought process to get something on the books.
This is more what I had in mind in January when we started this whole
Okay,
discussion.
but I remember there was some talk about getting the police involved.
Which they are, they have this, they have both.
Have they made recommendations on this?
They are, I spoke to Mr. Calamari today. He has reviewed Westwoods, but he'd like to have input from you also.
He likes Westwood, that just says.
He just saw Westwoods, he hasn't seen Ridgewoods, we're gonna
okay,
get him that one
okay,
tomorrow.
okay.
So maybe we can have a conference call and discuss that, and I know Angela's gonna also, she also wanted to review what we did also, the health officer.
So wasn't it that if we banned it outright, it would open us up to,
Yeah, I'm not sure, I mean, I'm looking at I don't want to say anything, but I'm looking at the one that's a blanket prohibition anywhere with no criteria or anything. I don't know that that's going to be something that's going to stand up, I don't know, but I will look into it. I actually have some materials, recent materials that I received on it, outside of these things that I can take a look at as well. There's some articles being written about it and so on.
we have an ordinance about burning vegetative material outdoors, so we don't even need that.
Covered.
Is tobacco also vegetative?
It is.
Yeah.
So, we're really going to make sure no one burns anything in town.
Anything else, gentlemen? Under quick public service announcement, dates to remember, general election voter registration deadline is Tuesday, October 16th. Clerk's office will be open from 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Shredding and recycling event will be held on Saturday, October 27th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Town Hall parking lot. The Bergen County Satellite Office and Passport Outreach Service, October 23rd, 24th, and 25th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Town Hall. Fourth quarter taxes are due November 1st, 2018. There will be a free rabies clinic Saturday, November 3rd, 2018 at the DMF facility between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. Just a reminder, the medication drop box is located in the Township of Washington Police Department lobby. For safety reasons, only solid medications such as pills, patches, and inhalers are accepted. No liquids or syringes are accepted. Thank you, everybody. At this time, do I have a motion to go into closed to discuss personnel, the administrator, the CFO, and the PBA negotiations?
So moved.
Excuse me, Mike, did we also want to add the property negotiation in there? Did you-
Oh, I'm sorry, and property negotiations.
May I ask what property?
Potential DMF.
Thank you.
Dr. Casso, you had motion to,
Yes, motion to go into closed.
do I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Do we anticipate going back?
We do not anticipate going back into public. Thank you, everybody.